أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والوزن يومئذ الحق فمن ثقلت موازينه فأولئك هم المفلحون ومن خفت موازينه فأولئك الذين خسروا أنفسهم بما كانوا بآياتنا يظلمون ولقد مكناكم في الأرض وجعلنا لكم فيها معايش قليلا ما تشكرون صدق الله العظيم. Respected brothers, elders, listeners at home, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So last night we completed Surah Al-A'raf, which begins halfway through the 8th juz and covers 3/4 of the 9th. Surah Al-A'raf is a Makki surah. And we've covered this in the past, that the common theme of the Makki surahs is that in the Makki surahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He generally reminds people of resurrection, of things pertaining to the akhirah. Because generally speaking, a Makki surah is a surah that was revealed before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina Munawwara. So it didn't have to be inside Makkah Mukarramah, just before the Madani era. And similarly, Madani surah is a surah that was revealed after the Makki era. So in the Madani surahs, you're going to find that there are a lot of rulings. Right? What is the ruling with regards to this? Right? The consumption of alcohol, fasting, zakah, right? Different things like this. All of that you're going to find in the Madani surahs. The Makki surahs, they mainly tackle belief, creed, aqidah. So therefore, one major thing that people found difficult to tackle, especially in that day and age, was resurrection. Right? They couldn't believe. Right? They couldn't wrap their heads around the concept of resurrection. Therefore, usually within the Makki surahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about resurrection in particular. Right? So even yesterday, right, in Surah Na'am, we talked about, right, a similar thing of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end of Surah Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to summon people on the Day of Judgment, and even He's going to even question the Anbiya alayhi salawatu wassalam. So in Surah A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions various different stories. With the surah begins with mentioning something that we talked about yesterday, فَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الَّذِينَ أُرْسِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. That the people that the prophets were sent to, we're going to question them, and we're also going to question the prophets themselves. فَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الَّذِينَ أُرْسِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. We're going to question those who the prophets were sent to. وَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And we're even going to question the prophets. Right? So yesterday we talked about what the questioning of the prophets is going to look like. What question will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask the prophets? Right? So theirs was more, مَاذَا أُجِبْتُمْ? Right? What did your nations, what did your people, how did they respond to you? What was their response? After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes mention of a very, very common thing that is discussed when we talk about the resurrection, which is the weighing of good deeds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقِّ. He says that on that day, the weighing of deeds is something that will be true. Meaning this is something that a person cannot reject. This is something that a person cannot turn away from. Rather, this is a reality that will occur. This is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do. In Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَضَعُ الْمَوَازِينَ الْقِسْطَ لِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. That on the day of judgment, we will establish the scales of justice to weigh the actions of the people. فَلَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا. Nobody will be wronged on that day. Every single good deed that person did will be weighed. All the bad deeds that person did will be weighed. Nobody will be wronged on that day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Right? So the idea behind waznul a'mal becomes clear through that narration. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like we mentioned yesterday, again, ayah of Surah Al-Anbiya, La yusalu amma yaf'al wa hum yusalu. That nobody can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala why He's doing something. Allah is not a being who can be questioned as to why something is happening. Rather, the creation will be questioned. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need to give you a reason of why He's admitting you into paradise, why He's admitting somebody into Jahannam. Right? Just like yesterday, Sayyidina Isa bin Maryam said, "In tu'adhibhum fa innahum ibaduk." Right? That if you decide to punish people, then they are your servants. You can punish them if you want. وَإِن تَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ فَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. If you want to punish, then you can punish, and if you want to forgive, then you can forgive. This is your choice. But the idea behind waznul a'mal is so that nobody leaves the day of on the day of resurrection. Nobody leaves thinking that they were wrong. Rather, everything will be made clear in front of that person. A person will be summoned. Right? Yesterday, we talked about the narration wherein Sayyidina Abu Hurairah says that a person will be questioned about 4 things. Some narrations 5 things. Everybody will be questioned about these things. In terms of your acts of worship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you, number 1, about your salah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question about all of the other deeds. Right, so the questioning is something that we talked about yesterday. Now this is referring to waznul a'mal, the weighing of good deeds and the bad deeds. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do so that people can understand why they are being dealt a certain fate. Why is this the judgment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it clear. Now the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He constantly reminds us of wazn, of the weighing of good deeds in the Holy Quran, is because this was something that people found it difficult to come to terms with. That a person does a good deed, or a person does something bad. How will that good deed be presented on the day of judgment and weighed? Because our deeds are abstract. There is no physical existence to them. You perform the salah is gone. Capture the salah and show me. How do I weigh that salah? A person gives charity. The act of charity, the sincerity, and the level of sincerity in their act of charity will be weighed. How? Show me that sincerity. So these things are things that people found it difficult to come to terms with. How is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to weigh these things? These things are not things that can be weighed. They're not things that can be measured. This was the common dilemma that people used to face. So therefore there was a group in the early stages of Islam that totally rejected the entire concept of waznul a'mal, of the weighing of deeds. Why? Because they thought that it was something that was not rationally or logically possible. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala weigh the deeds? The deeds don't exist anymore. Again, a person can respond to this in multiple different ways. The famous response is that a person cannot judge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's abilities based off of their own. Yeah, maybe for you it's difficult to weigh something like that. For you it's impossible. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it's not. Another response that can be given now is that this is an age-old discussion. The advancements of science have made it such that things that we thought were not measurable once upon a time, they can now be measured. Once upon a time, they probably thought that you couldn't measure the temperature outside, but now we can do that. Once upon a time, they probably thought that certain An earthquake. An earthquake cannot be measured. You just know that it's a big earthquake or it's a small earthquake. Can you measure the earthquake? They probably thought no. Right? But the advancements of science have showed us that yes, these things can be weighed. Right? So therefore, right, the one response is that a person cannot judge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's abilities based off of their own. And the second response is that there's so many advancements. Maybe right now we think these things can't be weighed. But then in the future, right, there will be a way to weigh those things. It is possible. Right? Nothing is beyond the abilities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will weigh the deeds on the Day of Judgment. Now the scholars, they then get into the discussion. How? What is it going to look like? Right, so first we must affirm and we must believe that the weighing of the actions will occur. It's going to happen. Now in what shape or form? Right, so there's many different narrations. There's a very famous narration narrated by Imam Tirmidhi. He mentioned that a person will come on the Day of Judgment. A man will come. And this person had committed no good deeds. This person will have 99 registers filled with bad deeds. Each register, as far as the eye can see. Any bad deed that you could think of, this person committed. 99 registers, as far as the eye can see, filled with bad deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels will bring these registered forward in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and put them in one pan of the scale. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask that, was there anything recorded in these registers? He'll ask the person, was there anything recorded in these registers that you didn't do? He goes, no, I did all of it. I accept my mistake. But these are everything that was recorded over here, 100% I did. So he goes, okay. He then will ask the angel, is there any good deed that this person did? So an angel will come with a tiny little piece of paper. And on that piece of paper will say the kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So the angel will say, yes, there's this one good deed that this person committed. This one good deed that this person did. So now this person will be sitting there thinking that, Ya Allah, how is this one little tiny piece of paper going to make a difference? The angels will come and they will put that little tiny piece of paper in the other pan of the scale, and that one kalima la ilaha illallah will outweigh the 99 registers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, right, that go. You have been forgiven on account, right, of this kalima la ilaha illallah, and you'll be admitted into paradise. So again, from this hadith, we understand the vastness of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we also understand something else. Okay, what is going to be weighed? So from this narration, we understand that it is the book of deeds that will be weighed. Not the deed itself, the book of deeds. Right? That's why you have the 99 registers on one side, you have that one little piece of paper on the other side. So the book of deeds, the record of deeds is going to be weighed. That's what we understand from this narration of Tirmidhi. In the narration of Sahih al-Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ says that a man will come on the Day of Judgment who will be very big. La yazinu inda Allahi janaha ba'uda. But he will not weigh in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even the equivalent of a wing of a mosquito. He won't even have that much weight in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he says, Rajulun azimun saminun, this person will be very big. So some of the scholars, they say from this hadith we understand that the person will be weighed. The person will be weighed. That's what we understand. That the person will be weighed. Other narrations mention that a person will come on the Day of Judgment and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask the angels to start loading the good deeds on one side of the scale. The deeds themselves will be loaded on one side of the scale. So first they will begin by loading the salah, the fard salah. And then, if there's any deficiency in the fard salah, Allah will ask that was there any nafil, optional prayers that this person did that we could make up for the deficiency? So then they'll say yes. So then they'll bring the optional prayers. What are they bringing? The deeds themselves are being weighed. The deeds themselves are being weighed. Another narration mentions that a person will come on the day of judgment. They will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person's good deeds will be put in the scale, and this person will be underwhelmed with the amount of good deeds that they have. They won't be really impressed. And it's not a lot. I don't know how, I'm going to do. All of a sudden, a cloud is going to come. A cloud. Something that seems like a cloud. The words of the hadith mentioned. It looks like it's a cloud. Will come and it'll start. And it will come and it will lower itself into the scale. It'll lower itself into the scale. And then now the scale, the side of the good deeds will become weightier, heavier. That person will ask that, Ya Allah, what is this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that until now the deeds that were there, those were all your deeds. The cloud that just came right now, that resembles the good deeds that were done after you left the world. Because of, for example, a charity that you gave, sadaqah jariyah. Somebody that you taught something and that person continued to implement it after your death. Pious children and offspring that continue to make dua, to do good deeds for you after you left this world. That's this. Meaning if it was up to just you and if it was just your actions, then you probably would have failed. But it's because of the actions of the people that you helped, the people that you showed the right path to. So from here we understand that, sometimes the actions will take certain forms. The reward of the action is being weighed. So therefore, various different ahadith are mentioning various different things. Some ahadith are mentioning, right, that the book of deeds is going to be weighed. The deed itself is going to be weighed. The person is going to be weighed. The rewards will be weighed. So different ahadith are mentioning different things. Ibn Kathir, he says, reconciling between the different narrations, he says that it's very possible that one person, his deeds will be weighed in multiple different ways, just to show him that that person is not being wrong. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will first weigh the deeds like this. And then He'll weigh the deeds in another way. And then He'll weigh the deeds in another way. And then another way. Just to show this person that, look, you're not being wrong. You're not being treated unjustly, unfairly over here. Rather, no matter how you weigh them, the outcome is the same. So Ibn Kathir says that is possible, a possible interpretation of putting all of these narrations together. Or the other interpretation is that it depends on the person. Some people, the weighing of the actions will take place like this. Other people will take place like this, and other people will take place like this. The one thing Ibn Kathir says that we can agree upon is that the deeds will be weighed. How will they be weighed? That will differ. Some people, it'll be different. Other people, it will be different. Maybe one person, various different methods will be used. But he says the one thing we can agree upon is that the weighing of the deeds will take place. 100%. That's what these narrations mention. And this is something that we must believe in. This is part of our creed. That on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will weigh the deeds. And the deeds will be weighed. That's what all of these ahadith, they're proving. Right? Many ahadith. Right? So who wins on that day? فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. He says that whoever's scale is weighty, is heavy, meaning the good deeds, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Then those people are successful. Meaning, if your good deeds are heavy and they're outweighing the bad deeds, then you're successful. You have succeeded. وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُم بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. And whoever's scale is light, meaning their good deeds are not outweighing their bad deeds, rather it's the opposite. The bad deeds are outweighing the good deeds. The good deeds are too light. He says, then فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُم. Then these are the people who have wronged themselves. بِمَا كَانُوا, and they have lost. بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. He says, why? Because these people used to reject our signs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it clear on that day, right, that this is how. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it clear. Right? We have so many narrations, right, talking about the weighing of the deeds. So many ayat in the Holy Quran that talk about the weighing of the deeds. وَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. Right? In Surah Al-Qari'ah. Right? فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. Right? A person whose deeds are weighty and heavy, فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. Right? They'll be living in eternal bliss. They'll be living a happy life. But then a person whose deeds are not, their good deeds are not outweighing their bad deeds, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. Right? That person's abode will be Jannah. Right? So a person, right, depending on the outcome, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, will serve that person. Now there's just one thing, coming back to the first narration that we mentioned about that one little piece of paper. So the scholars, they mentioned that, does that mean, what does that hadith mean? Does that mean you can commit as many sins as you want and just the kalima la ilaha illallah will be sufficient to prove your salvation? So the scholars say that one way of interpreting it is that that's an exceptional case. It's possible Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to show you mercy, but you don't want to take your chances. You only have one chance. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can deal with justice and decide, right, to make everything count exactly how much it counts for. Allah can do that too. So you don't want to take your chances. Right? That person that's mentioned in the hadith is getting lucky. That person is getting lucky. Right? There will be people that will be lucky. Many of us will be lucky on the Day of Judgment. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decide to overlook certain things and let certain things go. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will admit a person into paradise. He goes, this is sheer luck. He goes, you don't want to leave it up to just luck in the hereafter. You want to do whatever you can to make sure that you will pass, you will succeed. Right? That's what we understand, right? Otherwise, the Sahaba didn't just sit back waiting the kalima la ilaha illallah, and that's sufficient. Some people say that, then what is this entire thing? Some scholars, they say that a person, their actions will be weighed twice. Twice? Meaning the first time the weighing happens will be a weighing of iman and kufr. That's the first weighing. That was this person a believer or was this person a disbeliever? This hadith is referring to that. That okay, at the end of the day, the person had iman. If that person had iman, that means one day this person will be admitted into paradise. After having dealt the consequences of their actions, after facing those consequences, this person one day will be admitted into paradise. So that's what that hadith, right, is referring to. The first weighing, which is the weighing of iman and kufr. And then the second weighing is a more detailed weighing. Okay, now are you going to be admitted directly into paradise or are you going to be sent to Jahannam for a bit? So now let's weigh your deeds. Let's see. Right, so that's why, with some of the scholars, Ibn Kathir and them, they said that a person, maybe multiple times that person's deeds will be weighed. Maybe in different ways. That's why the different hadith mention different methods of weighing the deeds. He says, but nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over here reminds us, وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقِّ. It's the truth, it will happen. A person cannot deny it. Right? The person cannot deny it, rather this is the truth, it's part of our creed. And we have many verses in the Holy Quran talking about this fact. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the famous incident of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? And again, we'll just briefly brush through the incident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the incident of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, that when Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was created, right, this story also comes in the first juz, Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, He is using different tactics to prove the superiority of Adam upon, right, many of the other creations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches Adam alayhi salatu wasalam the names of many things. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And then He showed the malaika Adam, ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Right? Or He showed those same things to the malaika. فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِي بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ. Tell me the names of these things. They didn't know, because the malaika only knew that which Allah gave them the knowledge with regards to. So different things like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing the superiority of Adam. Who didn't like it? Iblis didn't like it. Iblis is like, what? I was here worshipping far before this guy came along. I was here. But Iblis was not part of the angels. Kana min al-jinn. The ayah mentions. Kana min al-jinni fa-fasaqqa an amri rabbih. That he was among the jinn. So therefore he was made of fire. He was made of fire. The angels were made of light. All right, maybe there's some resemblance there, but he didn't feel superiority over the angels because they're made of light. All right, almost the same thing. But this, right, Adam, he's made of clay. Right? Min salsalin min hama'in masnoon, 14th juz. That he's made out of clay, hollow clay. Meaning if you knock on him, you can hear the hollowness inside. And what is that referring to? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first created Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, He just created like a statue. And the statue just standing there. There was no spirit, there was no soul yet in Adam. Iblis comes to scope out his competition. He comes, he's looking like, what is this? And then he gives some narration. He gives it a knock. Yeah, he gives it a slight knock. Like, it's hollow. So he's like, yeah, it's not competition. It's okay. He's like, I'm not worried. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave life to Adam, and now all of this is happening, he's like, what? I thought this guy was like nowhere even close to my league. I'm in a fire. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. This is the argument Iblis is now putting forward in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ya Allah, what is going on? You created me from fire and you created him from clay. How are we even equal? Forget equal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is proving Adam's superiority. Right? He's proving his superiority. Iblis wasn't even ready to come to terms with the fact that they were equals. Now the scholars, they mentioned that Iblis, a person, a being that worshipped Allah for thousands of years, what happened all of a sudden? What happened? So he says that this, deep down, every single person has, right, pride. Right? A person has pride. Right? That when something happens, right, a person, a lot of times, right, their pride kicks in. How can that person say this to me? Right? Again, that is pride speaking. If a person thought of themselves as nothing, then that person wouldn't have really cared. But every single person has a bit. It is up to us to control it, to suppress it. So Iblis, his pride got the best of him. And because the pride got the best of him, pride is often associated with another emotion, anger. When a person becomes angry, what happens? A person doesn't realize who's in front of them. The person forgets who's in front of them. That person could be older, that person, it could be their father, that person could be their mother, a person tends to forget. When anger is a very dangerous emotion. So what happened? The pride is now boiling up all of this anger within Iblis. Iblis is now losing sight of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Iblis is now losing sight of that. And he's saying these things that he wouldn't have said before. He wouldn't have disrespected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this manner before, but he began saying these things. قَالَ مَا مَنَعَكَ أَلَّا تَسْجُدَ إِذْ أَمَرْتُكَ قَالَ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ. These are words of pride. I'm better than him. خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. Why am I better? Because you made me from fire. Fire is superior to clay. And the first thing is that who taught Iblis that fire is superior to clay? He didn't know that. He's just assuming. Right? So who even taught him that? Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching him a lesson, he said that, look, you know what? One easy way of fixing Iblis was that what? Just destroy Iblis. Khalas, it's over. Everybody would be okay. But no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to humble him. So he said, what? فَهْبِطْ مِنْهَا. He goes, I'm sending you to earth. I'm casting you into the dunya. And the wording Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses, habata. Habata means to lower oneself. He goes, go. Lower yourself. Go down into the world. And you're going to live there. فَمَا يَكُونُ لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا. He goes that you have no right to feel proud, even over there. فَخْرُجْ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. He goes, go, leave, because you are from among the humiliated ones. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, is giving him, right, a dosage of humility. That look, no. And we could end this right now, but that wouldn't teach you a lesson. But let's teach you a lesson. Go. I'm going to strip you of all of your bounties that you were enjoying here in Jannah, all of the authority that you had here. It's now all gone. You're out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kicked Iblis out of Jannah. فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا. It's mentioned at the beginning, Iblis was still able to travel up to the heavens. He just wasn't able to enter Jannah itself, but he was able to go to the skies. But this continued all the way until the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is where Surah Al-Jinn was revealed. When they were finally stopped from going to the heavens and going to the skies, but then the jinn started getting a bit skeptical. You know what's going on? We used to always go travel up there. We used to listen to things that were happening up there. We can't go anymore. Something happened. So then they found out that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran is being revealed. So to protect the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala banished them from the skies. So he then would go, and every now and then he's like, you know what? If I was kicked out, Adam gotta go too. Again, he saw him as competition now. Before he never saw him as competition. Now he's like, oh, he's competition. So now he's trying to get Adam alayhi salatu wasalam kicked out as well. So he's going every now and then. He's like, oh, you know what? This, that. Should I not tell you a way that you can live forever? He's basically teaching him the opposite. He's teaching him how to die instead of how to live forever. Living forever would mean Adam would stay in Jannah. But no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had something else planned. Adam succumbed to the whispers of Shaytan. Now, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse says, فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمَا مَا وُرِيَ عَنْهُمَا. Shaytan, he whispered to both of them, Adam and Hawa. But he whispered to both of them, لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمَا مَا وُرِيَ عَنْهُمَا مِنْ سَوْآتِهِمَا. So that he may expose their nakedness that was concealed. Meaning, what happened when Adam alayhi salatu wasalam and Hawa decided to eat from the tree? Right? Their bodies became exposed. Shaitan knew this. That's what the ayah is indicating. He did this so that they may be stripped of their clothing. Shaitan knew this. Right? The very famous Sufi scholar and jurist of the subcontinent, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, he says over here in his Tafseer, he says that, look, from the very beginning, Shaitan was trying to get people unclothed. He goes, the fitna of today is exactly the same. Shaitan is still trying to get people unclothed, right? Exposing their bodies and whatnot. He goes, the same. Shaitan is still working in the same manner as he was doing, right, thousands of years ago. And it's still working. He goes, that's the astonishing thing. It's still working. He's still just using different tactics, right, to get people to show more, right, of their nakedness, right, and to conceal less of their bodies. He goes, he's still using his tactics to do the same thing, just as he did with Adam and Hawa. He used this tactic because he knew that they would be unclothed after. So he said, this is something that we should watch out for. This is among the initial strategies of Shaytan that's been working for thousands of years. This is Shaytan's ultimate strategy because he knows that this is where everything starts. It's the gaze that begins. So therefore he comes at a person, right? He comes at a person from every angle. Everywhere, except for the bottom. Yeah, but now we live in an era where even looking down is not safe. When a person has their phone, a person can be doing anything. Shaitan could attack a person from any angle. And Shaitan's been doing it for centuries, for thousands of years. And Shaitan's been succeeding. Mankind is just not listening and not taking heed. In the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He accepts the tawbah of Adam. And what made Adam different? I mean, they both made mistakes. Adam made tawbah because he accepted his mistake. Iblis refused. He said no. Rather, on the contrary, he went to the complete opposite end. He goes, you know what? Grant me life until the day of resurrection, and I swear I will spend every last minute of my life leading the people astray. He made that his life goal. That if I was banished and I was kicked out, I'm going to make sure nobody goes to Jannah. Right? Now, Shaitan is not just proud, he's also jealous. Right? So again, right, Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala in Bidayatul Hidayah, he says that pride is the main sickness and the disease of the heart that creates many others, and many others stem from pride and arrogance. That's what's happening to Iblis too. He's not losing focus. He's not just proud, he's also jealous. He goes, look, if I'm not going to Jannah, they're not going either. I'm going to spend every last minute just leading them all astray. And that's what he did. And that's what he's been doing. Yeah, but alhamdulillah, right now he's locked up. Right? So that's what he's been doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, again, right, a person, right, is their job. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam refers to fasting as as-sawmu junnatun. That a fast is a what? A shield. A shield against who? Against Shaitan. A person is developing this ability to stay away from things that they desire. Food and drink is something that's normal for us. But a person is fighting this desire, right, training themselves. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, He prescribes fasting in order to gain taqwa. Right? That's the number one way of doing it. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam calls it a shield that will protect you from Shaitan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us as well. Ameen wa akhiru da'wan. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم حصن فرجي ويسر لي أمري اللهم إني أسألك تمام الوضوء وتمام الصلاة وتمام رضوانك وتمام مغفرتك اللهم أعطني كتابي بيميني اللهم غشني برحمتك وجنبني عذابك اللهم ثبت قدمي على الصراط يوم تزل فيه الأقدام اللهم اجعلنا مفلحين اللهم افتح أقفال قلوبنا بذكرك وأتمم علينا نعمتك من فضلك واجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين اللهم آتني أفضل ما تؤتي عبادك الصالحين اللهم أحيني مسلما وأمتني مسلما اللهم عذب الكفرة وألق في قلوبهم الرعب وخالف بين كلمتهم وأنزل عليهم رجزك وعذابك اللهم عذب الكفرة أهل الكتاب والمشركين الذين يجحدون آياتك ويكذبون رسلك ويصدون عن سبيلك ويتعدون حدودك ويدعون معك إلها آخر لا إله إلا أنت تباركت وتعاليت عما يقول الظالمون علوا كبيرا اللهم اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وأصلحهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وألف بين قلوبهم واجعل في قلوبهم الإيمان والحكمة وثبتهم على ملة رسولك وأوزعهم أن يشكروا نعمتك التي أنعمت عليهم وأن يوفوا بعهدك الذي عاهدتهم عليه وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إله الحق سبحانك لا إله غيرك اغفر لي ذنبي واصلح لي عملي انك تغفر الذنوب لمن تشاء وانت الغفور الرحيم. يا غفار اغفر لي، يا تواب تب علي، يا رحمن ارحمني، يا عفو اعف عني، يا رؤوف ارأف بي. يا رب اوزعني ان اشكر نعمتك التي انعمت علي وطوقني حسن عبادتك. يا رب اسالك من الخير كله واعوذ بك من الشر كله. يا رب افتح لي بخير واختم لي بخير وآتني شوقا إلى لقائك من غير ضراء مضرة ولا فتنة مضلة وقني السيئات ومن تق السيئات يومئذ فقد رحمته وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله ولك الملك كله ولك الخلق كله بيدك الخير كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله. أسألك من الخير كله وأعوذ بك من الشر كله. بسم الله الذي لا إله غيره الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أذهب عني الهم والحزن. اللهم بحمدك إن صرفت وبذنبي اعترفت. اللهم إلهي وإله إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب وإله جبريل وميكائيل وإسرافيل، أسألك أن تستجيب دعوتي فإني مضطر، وتعصمني في ديني فإني مبتلى، وتنالني برحمتك فإني مذنب، وتنفي عني الفقر فإني متمسكن. اللهم إني أسألك بحق السائلين عليك، فإن للسائل عليك حقا. أيما عبد أو أمة من أهل البر والبحر تقبلت دعوتهم واستجبت دعاهم أن تشركنا في صالح ما يدعونك، وأن تشركهم في صالح ما ندعوك، وأن تعافيني وإياهم، وأن تقبل منا ومنهم، وأن تجاوز عنا وعنهم، فإنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. اللهم أعط محمد الوسيلة واجعل في المصطفين محبته وفي الأعلين درجته وفي المقربين ذكره. اللهم اهدني من عندك وافض علي من فضلك وانشر علي برحمتك وانزل علي من بركاتك. اللهم اغفر لي وارحمني وتب علي انك انت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اني اسالك توفيق اهل الهدى واعمال اهل اليقين ومناصحه اهل التوبه وعزم اهل الصبر وجد اهل الخشيه وطلب اهل الرغبه وتعبد اهل الورع وعرفان اهل العلم حتى اخافك. اللهم اني اسالك مخافه تحجزني عن معاصيك حتى أعمل بطاعتك عملا نستحق به رضاك، وحتى أناصحك بالتوبة خوفا منك، وحتى أخلص لك النصيحة حياء منك، وحتى أتوكل عليك في الأمور كلها وحسن الظن بك. سبحان خالق النور. اللهم لا تهلكنا فجاءة ولا تأخذنا بغتة ولا تعجلنا عن حق ولا وصية. اللهم آنس وحشتي في قبري. اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرني منه ما نسيت وعلمني منه ما جهلت وارزقني تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لي حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم أنا عبدك وابن عبدك وابن أمتك ناصيتي بيدك أتقلب في قبضتك وأصدق بلقائك وأؤمن بوعدك. أمرتني فعصيت ونهيتني فأتيت. هذا مقام العائذ بك من النار. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي إنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم لك الحمد وإليك المشتكى وبك المستغاث وأنت المستعان ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم إني أعوذ برضاك من سخطك وبمعافاتك من عقوبتك وأعوذ بك منك لا أحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نزل أو نضل أو نظلم أو نظلم أو نجهل أو يجهل علينا أو أضل أو أضل. أعوذ بنور وجهك الذي أضاءت له السماوات وأشرقت له الظلمات وصلح عليه أمر الدنيا والآخرة أن تحل علي غضبك أو تنزل علي سخطك ولك العتبى حتى ترضى ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. اللهم واقية كواقية الوليد. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر الأعميين السيل والبعير الصهول. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم. سبحان الله رب العرش العظيم. نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم. لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا ميتا إلا غفرت له ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا أعنتنا على قضائها يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين ووحد اللهم صفوفهم وأجمع كلمتهم على الحق واكسر شوكة الظالمين واكتب السلام والأمن لعبادك أجمعين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين المظلومين في شتى بلاد العالم. اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من جهد البلاء ودرك الشقاء وسوء القضاء وشماتة الأعداء. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا يستجاب لها. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصل اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح.